the afternoon sun, it's just streaming through these high workshop windows. You can see dust motes sort of dancing in the light. And right in the center, there's Master Amira. She's adjusting her headscarf. Her hands are stained this deep, deep indigo blue, and she's just smiling at her students.
You can almost feel it, can't you?
You really can. The air, it isn't just warm, it's thick. It smells sweet, like honey and beeswax, but mixed with this earthy scent of wet fabric.
And the steam rising from the vats. It's a scene that feels so timeless.
It really is. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. You're listening to Season 2, Episode 5 of Threads of Tomorrow Crafting Textiles.
It's great to be here.
Now, before we properly step into that workshop with Amira, I have to give a huge thank you to the sponsor who makes this all possible, omimi.com.
That's right.
And just so everyone's clear, that's pronounced omimi.com.
Exactly, omimi.com. They're doing amazing work helping us bring these stories to light.
They really are. Now, today's mission is a little bit special. We've realized we have a lot of new listeners joining us who are learning English, our ESOL community.
Which is fantastic. Welcome.
So we made a pact, didn't we? We're going to keep today's conversation really clear, try to avoid jargon, and just move at a comfortable pace so everyone can follow along.
That's the goal. And it's fitting, really, because our topic today is a kind of universal language. It's visual, it's cultural.
It's wax batik. When I first started reading the source material, I thought, okay, this is basically fancy tie-dye.
Yeah.
But it's so much more.
Oh, way more.
It's about how wax and dye create these, stories on fabric. We're going to go from the chemistry of the wax right down to patterns that could, historically, get you into very serious trouble.
High-stakes art. And it all starts with this core concept from Master Amira, resist dyeing.
Right. Let's unpack that. What is resist dyeing? Because, when I do laundry and a red sock turns a white shirt pink, that's just dyeing. The resist implies a fight, right?
It is a fight, in a way, a fight for space. Regular dyeing is, like you said, total immersion. You put a shirt in a bucket of blue dye, the whole thing turns blue. No control.
Okay, got it.
But resist dyeing is all about control. It's about creating barriers, hiding parts of the fabric so the dye can't get to them.
I loved Master Amira's metaphor for it. She said it's like telling a story where some parts remain hidden until the perfect moment.
It's poetry. You're protecting the cloth. So if you have a white cloth, you put down a barrier, then dip it in blue dye. When you take the barrier off,
the white is revealed.
Exactly. The original white revealed amidst the blue.
And this isn't just an Indonesian thing, is it? I was really surprised to see how global this is.
Absolutely. We're focusing on batik, but resist dyeing has different flavors all over the world. Like in Japan, you have shibori.
Shibori, that's the folding one, right?
Right. The resistance there is mechanical. You fold the fabric, you clamp it, you bind it with string. It's the pressure that stops the dye.
So the barrier is pure pressure.
Correct. Then if you go to India, you find bandhani.
And how's that different?
Bandhani means to tie. It's about plucking thousands of tiny points of cloth and tying them with thread into these microscopic knots.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. But Master Amira, she calls wax batik the most sophisticated of them all.
That's a big claim. Why?
It comes down to freedom. With folding or tying, you're limited by, geometry. But with wax batik, your barrier is liquid wax.
Ah, so you can draw with it.
Precisely. You're not just making shapes. You can draw birds, flowers, entire scenes. It's the difference between folding paper and writing a poem on it.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of writing, let's talk about the tools. You can't just use a normal paintbrush with hot wax, can you? It'd be ruined.
You can, for some things, but the real star of the show is a tool called the janting.
The janting. I've seen pictures. Describe it for us.
Okay, imagine a very small copper pot, maybe the size of a golf ball, attached to a bamboo handle. And this little pot has a tiny, thin spout coming out of it.
It looks a bit like a miniature pipe.
It does. You dip the copper bowl into the hot wax, and the copper holds the heat, keeping the wax liquid. Then you tilt it, and the wax flows out of that spout like ink from a pen.
Wow. But that sounds dangerous. Hot wax over a clean cloth.
It takes an incredibly steady hand, years to master. But that's for freehand work. For patterns, there's something else.
The cap, right.
Right, the cap. Think of it like a big stamp made of copper stretch.
Like a metal stamp.
Exactly. They bend the copper into a design, dip the whole thing in wax, and press it onto the cloth. It's for creating repeating patterns quickly.
So the janting is the artist and the cap is for production.
In a way. And of course, the canvas matters. You need good quality cotton or silk. The weave has to be just right.
Which brings us to what I found the most fascinating part of this, the secret sauce. The wax itself, I have to admit, I just thought you melted a candle.
Huh. That is the biggest misconception, and you would be very, very disappointed if you tried that.
Why? What's wrong with candle wax?
It's mostly paraffin, and paraffin is, well, it's brittle. If you draw a line with pure paraffin on fabric and then fold it,
It would just crack.
it would snap, and the dye would seep into all those little cracks, ruining your design.
Okay, so what's the solution?
A blend. It's a mix of two things. First, you have the paraffin wax. That's your foundation. It gives you clean, sharp lines.
Okay, paraffin is for structure. What's the second ingredient?
Beeswax.
What does beeswax do?
It's the elasticity agent. It adds flexibility, makes the mix sticky and soft so it can move with the fabric without snapping.
So why not just use pure beeswax? It sounds better.
It's too soft. Your sharp lines would just smudge and turn into blurry blobs. It's a balancing act.
Is there a golden ratio then? A set recipe?
There's a general guide, maybe 30% to 50% beeswax. But, and this is where it gets really technical, a true master like Amira changes that recipe every single day, based on 3 variables.
This part blew my mind. The first one is climate, right? The weather.
Exactly. The temperature of the room. So if you're in a hot tropical workshop.
Okay, now this part seemed a bit backward in the notes. You'd think you'd want less soft wax in the heat, but Amira says you use more beeswax.
It does sound backward, but think about it this way. In the heat, you need the wax to have some body, to be sticky enough to stay put. Pure paraffin would be too thin and runny. The beeswax thickens it up.
It controls the viscosity. Okay, so in a cool climate.
In a cool climate, you actually need more paraffin, up to 70%.
Why more paraffin in the cold?
To help it flow,
Yeah.
the wax cools down so fast, you need that liquidy paraffin just to get the wax from the pot to the cloth before it hardens in the spout.
That is incredible. So what's variable too?
The fabric. If you're using silk, which has a tight weave, you need more paraffin to help the wax soak in.
And for cotton.
Cotton has a looser weave, so you need more beeswax. You need that stickiness to really grab onto the fibers.
And the third variable is the design itself.
Right. A tiny, intricate line needs more beeswax for flexibility. But if you're filling in a huge area that's called nembak, you use more paraffin. It covers better and dries harder.
It's a true science. You'd have to keep a journal.
Absolutely. A journey of experimentation.
Okay, before we get into the dyeing, which has a huge rule we need to talk about, let's just take a quick pause.
A gentle reminder for everyone listening.
This entire deep dive is brought to you by omami.com. Again, that's my.com.
And if you're loving this, there's a way to stay connected, isn't there?
There is. We would love for you to join the omami.com WhatsApp community. It's a group called Devi the Curious.
Devi the Curious. I love that name.
It's perfect. You can join just by scanning the QR code on the poster for this podcast.
And what do you get when you join?
Well, you stay informed. You'll get updates on new deep dives, blog posts, tools, and even live workshops we curate just for this community.
So scan that code, join the conversation.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got our wax mixed. We've drawn our design. Now, color. You said there's one golden rule for batik dyeing.
Yes. The golden rule is you can only use cold dyes.
Only cold. Why?
Well, think about what our resist is made of and what happens to wax in hot water.
Oh, right. It melts.
It melts. Your entire pattern would just float away. All that work ruined. So you're limited to dyes that work at room temperature, like natural indigo or modern reactive dyes.
And that creates a whole process for how you build up the colors. A symphony of layers, the source called it.
A progression. And it almost always moves from light to dark.
So you save the pale colors first.
Exactly. Let's say you want to design with white, yellow, and blue. You start with your white cloth.
Okay.
First, you use wax to cover every part you want to stay white. Then, you dip the whole cloth in the lightest color, yellow.
So now the whole cloth is yellow, except for the white parts under the wax.
Correct. Now you take it out, let it dry, and you wax everything you want to stay yellow. Then you dip the whole thing in blue.
And the blue covers the unwaxed yellow, turning it blue or maybe green.
And the parts you waxed in step 2 stay yellow, and the parts you waxed in step 1 stay white. You're building the puzzle in reverse.
Trapping the light before adding the darkness. I love that. And there are specific Javanese terms for these stages, right?
There are. Metal is the step of dyeing with indigo blue. Soga is the traditional brown dye.
And we mentioned nembak for waxing big areas. But there was one that showed true dedication. Nurusi.
Ah, yes. Nurusi. This is master-level stuff. It means working on both sides of the cloth.
Both sides.
Yes. You wax the exact same design perfectly on the back of the fabric to make sure the dye doesn't bleed through and ruin your lines.
That is double the work. Wow.
But it makes the fabric reversible and the colors so much richer.
So after all this layering, the cloth is stiff and dark with wax. How do you get the final reveal?
You finally use heat. You plunge the whole thing into boiling water. The wax melts, floats to the top, and you skim it off.
Oh, you can iron it between newspapers.
Yes, for more delicate pieces. And as that wax lifts away,
The story is revealed.
all those colors you saved, they just emerge from the darkness. It's magic.
And these patterns, they're not just pretty shapes, are they? They're stories themselves.
Not at all. It's called reading the cloth. For example, there's a famous pattern called the parang.
What does that one mean?
It looks like a row of knife blades or crashing waves. It represents life's continuous struggle, power, and the refusal to give up.
So it's a pattern for courage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have the kawang, which looks like 4 intersecting ovals. It's inspired by the palm fruit and symbolizes purity and righteousness.
But some of these patterns were actually dangerous to wear.
Yes. In the royal courts of Java, certain patterns, like large versions of the parang, were forbidden. They were reserved only for the king.
And if a commoner wore one?
Historically, it could cost you your life. These weren't just clothes, they were legal markers of your rank.
That's incredible. And while Indonesia is the pinnacle, batik is truly global.
It is. There are wax-resist traditions in China from the Tang Dynasty, in Egypt, and of course in West Africa.
The Ankara fabrics.
Exactly. The technique traveled through trade routes, but was completely adopted and adapted in places like Nigeria and Ghana with their own local symbols and stories.
It's amazing how a technique travels, but the culture adapts the story.
It really is.
I have to bring up the legend Master Amira mentioned, the romantic origin story.
The princess in the tower?
The legend says batik was born from her tears, where they fell on the cloth, patterns emerged. It's so beautiful.
It's a lovely image, but as the expert here, I have to gently counter the myth with a little bit of history.
Go on, bring us back to earth.
The earliest written mention we have of batik is in a 12th century Javanese text, the Surat Lokapala.
So it's been a documented, sophisticated art for almost 1,000 years.
Developed over generations, not just from tears.
Well, whether it's tears or texts, it's clearly a deep living tradition.
Absolutely.
So to summarize, we've learned that batik is resist dyeing, drawing with wax to tell a story. We've learned about the janting tool.
The chemistry of the wax, balancing paraffin and beeswax based on climate, fabric, and design.
The rule of cold dyes and the meanings behind the patterns. It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has.
And before we go, one last time, this deep dive was brought to you by omimi.com. Remember to pronounce it omimi.com.
Making this knowledge accessible to everyone.
Please don't forget to scan that QR code on the poster and join the Devi the Curious WhatsApp group. It's the best way to stay in the loop.
And we want to hear from you.
Yes, use the comment box. What should we cover next? And if you have a piece of batik, please share a picture. We'd love to see it.
We really would.
We'll be back soon with more content to feed your curiosity. So please stay tuned and follow the podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
I want to leave you with one final thought. Master Amira said that no two pieces of batik are alike, just as no two stories are told the same way.
And she mentioned the cracks in the wax.
Exactly. Sometimes the wax cracks a little, letting in these tiny veins of color. A factory would call that a defect. But in batik, those cracks, the imperfections, are what give the art its soul. Thanks for listening.